Today on the Game Corner, our game in focus is the Halo series. At 4:15, we'll discuss whether certain games are going out of style or losing their edge. At 4:30, we'll talk to our gamer, Dylan Bender. And finally, at 4:45, we'll debate the role of single-player campaigns in first-person shooter games. With Nick Jerzak and Eric Jaworski in Ithaca College's VIC radio studio on Saturday, February 22nd. This is the Game Corner. Wow, another great day for the Game Corner. It's sunny outside. Things are melting. I'm so happy that it's finally starting to look a little bit like spring, but it's
spring is coming around the corner, though.
And it's actually going to get a lot colder, though, Mr. Jaworski.
I don't mind cold. I love cold.
I know that you love cold, but I am not a fan of cold. But we've got more important things to talk about besides the weather. We are looking at one of the most iconic games in gaming history, at least within the past 10 years.
Especially particularly with Microsoft and, of course, just Xbox in general.
It is the Halo series. Obviously, this is one of the greatest games and one of the most frustrating to play because of friends just screen looking all the time.
Yeah, especially back in the Xbox, with the Xbox and Halo 2. I mean, my history with Halo started off with Halo 2 without really knowing that much and only playing the multiplayer. It was only with Halo 3 where I really got involved with the story and the campaigns, and then I played, Halo Wars, ODST, Halo Reach, and of course the recent Halo 4.
I actually only stuck to the regular games. We only had Halo 1 on Xbox, the original Xbox. That was actually a lot of fun. Terrible graphics now that I think about it, though.
Yeah, but the combat evolved, helped reboot it, just like with Fable recently.
Yes, and Halo 2 I had Halo 3, and then I also have played Halo 4. One of my very favorite things in this game was
you didn't even play the campaign, did you?
Well, Halo 4, I started the campaign, and then I noticed that the story was just lacking.
Yeah.
Lacking so much in terms of, like, the depth. It was just like, okay, you've got Master Chief, and you've got Cortana. Mm-hmm. And all the rest of these guys, you don't have to care about.
Yeah.
Honestly, you don't.
Well, again, that was sort of like the thing with like the Halo series where it is really complicated and really difficult to like understand the story from when you first play it, because again, you have the history of the Forerunners, how they had the threat of the Flood, and how they extincted like everyone, but then brought them back. And it was like a weird complex thing, especially when I heard the theory about Halo, how it just destroys all life. I'm like, why would anyone want to build a weapon to like destroy life? But then, of course, I learned it was all about the Flood. And with Halo 4, even though like it's sort of like try to continue about it, it was just still
Halo 4 just didn't even make sense in the way that it related the Covenant to the humans to the Forerunners, because in this game you're supposedly, after having a huge treaty with the Covenant throughout games 2 and 3, apparently now that's just completely void once you get into 4 and you're fighting the Covenant again.
I don't know. There's like weird little things I read where those weren't like, actual Covenant. Those are like, rogue bandits or pirates or something like that. It's kind of explained a little bit more in Spartan Ops. But I think that the reason why there's not really much depth between like other characters in Halo 4 is because they want the main focus to be on Cortana and Master Chief, because this may be their last time together.
Anyway, we've got a lot of other things besides the story to talk about. Halo 2 and 3, one of my favorite things was being able to be somebody other than than a Spartan, and it's something that I kind of missed in the most recent edition of Halo 4.
By being an elite, if that's what you're specifically...
Yes, being an elite, and I think it was cool to be able to design an elite.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Halo 2 where you were able to play the Arbiter, and also, again, with multiplayer. I don't know, I wasn't really much into being an alien. I was always wanting to be a Spartan myself, especially customizing, like, what my ideal Spartan would look like with the character and looks. So it wasn't like something I cared about that much.
Well, you could always do the same exact thing for the elites. They had their own armors as well.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I prefer human to alien, if that's what you ask.
I'm guessing that's okay to say. I mean, but the one thing that I know that Halo 4 did do well is it did a range of guns. They added so many guns to that game. It was ridiculous. You had a flamethrower type weapon in that game, and it was just absolutely fun to use.
Goodness, I'm just even trying to remember, like, like those turrets, like how that was actually you were able to like rip them off and finally use them. I still remember like how revolutionary that was in Halo 3.
Yeah, that was
and, like,
Halo
how
3
they were just
introduced
adding more to it. That's what I'm saying. So adding more weapons, like again the brute weapons into Halo 3 and all that, and adding just more to it, and especially with the Prometheans, since we got this new alien race to worry about.
Now, what I thought was interesting was that Halo 1 through 3, you were able to find weapons on the map and all this other stuff, and it's not as prominent in Halo 4 when you get to it, because now they're sending you out there with a set of like standardized UNSC weapons or Covenant weapons or Promethean weapons, and then a lot of the time you're actually trying to get drops for certain other weapons like the Spartan laser and things like that. Those aren't really found on the map as easily.
Yeah, they're either the obvious, or once in a while there might be like those checkpoints where it's like, hey, there's a ammo area here, and like actually no, there was more about it with the like. I don't know. I don't remember if this was in the campaign, but I know it's in the multiplayer where it's like the supply drop points where something would send down to you and you would get.
That's what I'm talking about.
So maybe that's the reason why they wanted to add that more to it.
I think that the way that they were trying to do it is because a lot of people have in the recent years have gone from being complete Halo fans to doing a lot more with the Call of Duty series. And that was something that they introduced in Call of Duty, where you're usually playing as guys with these just regular guns, and then you get the drop points.
Even in the animation, especially with the campaign, where like you're like first person and like you're climbing up stairs, or like even trying to fight like the Didact, where it like gives you commands like, to climb up. It was like, this definitely feels like a Call of Duty game with like these weird commands to crawl and that you never expect in a Halo game. So I do agree that Halo 4 was more of a Call of Duty-esque game.
What was fun about the animations that really didn't take away is, of course, the assassination animations.
Yeah, those were actually not introduced in Halo 4. Those were actually introduced in Halo Reach, if you didn't know that.
I actually never played Halo Reach, so I could not possibly have known that.
Well,
but thank you for telling me.
It was still an awesome add-on too. Like just come up behind an enemy and just either stab in the back, or I don't know. It was either the same thing where you just stab them. I wish there was kind of like a little bit more details, like especially with like Gears of War, how there is different kills.
What,
for
like snapping somebody's neck or something like that?
Snapping someone's neck, or I don't know, even using the weapon that you have, like pretend to use like the one of the long shots or the sniper rifle as almost like a golf club and just bang their head with it.
Anyway, there's that, and then of course Halo 4 also added a lot of I want to say game types. I don't know if there were these same exact game types going throughout Halo Reach or ODST or any of those ones, but my favorite one, of course, which we've played a lot last year when the game actually was around and really, really popular, was SWAT. I absolutely love it because you do get the one-shot kills, and apparently I was just a beast with a pistol.
That game type I think was back with Halo 3 or something like that, but there was other like different game types. Like I do remember from ODST, and I think even a little bit of Reach, was Firefight, where basically you're fighting off hordes and waves of different Covenant or Floods, and you're just basically trying to survive. While with Halo 4 they removed that and add Spartan Ops, which it's like Firefight with maybe levels or something like that. But one of the games I'm glad that they added finally to
Griffball?
Yeah, Griffball and Flood, where it's like zombie things. Because I do remember so many of my friends were like, let's try, do a zombie thing, even with Call of Duty, or just like, and now it's like, oh, they finally made a game type for this. But still, I'm excited for Griffball. It's like every time I play with my friends, it's just like, I'm gonna get it. I'm just like, oh, you little son of a
And yeah, that I actually haven't played this game in so long. Like the last time I played was back, I want to say
last year almost.
Probably during the summer sometime. And I have the map packs and everything bought like that. And, I can't even remember what my usual style of play is anymore. I mean,
sniper, or
I really love to snipe. I will be one of those camping guys that everybody absolutely hates and everybody targets.
I'm the big guns blazing guy. Just give me a gun and I'm just going to rampage through. Rampage!
Except that sort of strategy is just absolutely moot because a lot of people expect you to do that, and then you end up running into a tank, and then boom.
Well, if I get in the tank, then I can even go on a bigger rampage. I love vehicles.
I am sure that you do, Eric.
I kick ass when I'm in the vehicle. If you give me a tank, it'll take like 20 kills to stop me.
I'm not sure
Even
about...
my friends are like, oh God, he's in a tank. Oh crap.
I don't know about
scared.
you driving a Warthog, though. I believe the last time we did that, you crashed us about 5 times.
Well, no, that was because there was like some weird incline. I don't know. Just give me a gun and I'll probably be able to do it. Just give me some good weapons.
The one thing that is absolutely annoying, though, is when you're on that killing spree, and I remember I got a Kilimanjaro, if you remember this.
Oh, yeah. That, like, one weird time where you got, like
7 or 8 kills in a row.
It was wow.
It was absolutely epic. But what's the worst is when you're doing one of those, and then somebody comes up and freaking assassinates you just from behind, and you're like...
Aw.
No. Why?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just life. That's the gaming life. You get a lot of kills, and sooner or later you get a lot of deaths.
I suppose that is, but you know what? We are actually coming up here on a break. If you want to talk to us about what your favorite kinds of playstyles or what you like about the Halo series, then come and talk to us. Give us a tweet at VIC Game Corner or at VIC Radio. You're listening to the Game Corner here on VIC Radio.
The Game Corner.
So I hear you got sisters. Bound chicken. We're twins. Wow, wow. Shut up.
All right, screw it. You guys get behind me. Stay tight.
Bound chicken, wow, wow.
Never mind. Tucker's in front.
How did you even hear that?
I'm like Superman. I know when I'm needed.
Bound chicken,
Hey, chicken, bum, bum. Caboose, what did I tell you about that?
Halo series.
You are listening to the Game Corner here on VIC Radio. A little bit of red versus blue in there.
Hey, chicka bum bum.
Anyway,
Oh,
we've got a great guest here today. He is a emerging media major and is also a sort of game developer here on campus at Ithaca College. He is Cody Garrett. How you doing, Cody?
I'm doing pretty well. My last semester, getting through. It's good.
Yeah.
It's always good. We actually had an actually interesting idea that I came up with when we were reading some article. I think it was in Game Informer, either that or it was on GameSpot, where they were talking about games that are sort of going out of style or losing their edge. And a lot of people, surprisingly, have said that shooter games are actually kind of going along the same wavelength that they've always been on, and it's just getting boring playing the same old game after game after game, and it's just sort of this cash cow. Now, being a game developer, we thought we would get your sort of perspective on this sort of issue. What games do you think, as a game developer, are losing it right now in current gaming?
Well, yeah, I think first-person games or first-person shooter games, they're definitely in a weird place because people are expecting more and more from them, and there's only so much you can go with. A lot more first-person shooter games like Antichamber are stepping it up and playing more onto like puzzle or strategy, while future games like Destiny and Titanfall, they're introducing new mechanics. While one's very RPG, the other one is very much like these titans that can do so much more. Sorry, they can do so much more. But like I think first-person shooters, it's been it's like technology where we keep scaling it up more and more, higher and higher, and it's getting to a weird point. But I think not even just as a genre, but just like most console games are beginning to sell out. Like these like when the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One first came out, they were expecting really big sales, and they both did very, very well. But the hardcore gamers are moving more and more towards the like PC because they can do so much more without having to worry about like constantly having to get a new console, and they can upgrade whenever they want.
Yeah, that is one of the perks of being a PC gamer, and I probably do need to be one sometime soon. stop playing games off of my Mac.
It seems like it's a lot to do, though, because you have to build your own PC.
But
and
then
get
you
all
feel
the various-
accomplished. I mean, I personally would like to like upgrade my own computer one time. I'm just a little bit busy moving back and forth between Chicago, so.
Yeah.
So why do you think certain games are starting to lose their popularity?
I think it's because, growing up, at least with us, I'm speaking for our generation, we went with the trend. We were very much the video game console generation. And now people who play video games aren't just, the hardcore gamer or the hardcore casual gamer, which is what I usually classify with. But, casual games are so big now, like apps like the Flappy Bird game and just like with the introduction of the Wii, I think casual gaming became such a great market to appeal to. So you're either getting very cartoony games, not to put Nintendo in the spotlight, but Nintendo makes a lot of family-friendly games, and so it kind of forces the console, like the other major consoles, to like, well, we have to appeal to the hardcore gamer, even though the hardcore gamer is moving more towards the PC, and so there's a lot of conflicting marketing things going on, but it's tough. But man, video games though.
I think you probably did mention what's getting popular is like again with those puzzle games
and things like Flappy Bird, and that's
So
even
it's
been
like-
taken off of the market, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was taken off, but like hundreds of people have developed variations of it. Like I think Fallout Boy made one that was like Fallout Bird, and I remember the one that I saw that was like
Really?
just like make your own Flappy Bird.
So anyways, with those games that are on the decline, what do you do to like make them popular, or was this
What
question?
can you do? What can you do basically to revamp those games that are sort of losing their edge, like the Call of Duty game or the Halo game, because they seem to be like going on the downward angle? And how can the developers of those games help make them a little bit more popular?
Well, I think not just thinking about how, like, what's the next biggest gun we could think of, and moving more towards like the idea of introducing strategy into it, or introducing like BioShock Infinite. They were very much story based, and having more story based games. Like I'm looking forward to Wolfenstein: The New Order, because that's very story driven. It looks very cinematic from the commercials that they've had.
Again, yeah, I definitely agree that storytelling is a big thing, especially going on with video games. I mean, I've been playing the Walking Dead games, and
Yep.
I just started The Wolf Among Us. It's just like, oh my god, this is so awesome to hear. I think it's not only do we want some games with great gameplay, but again, a story that we care about.
Yeah, because video games are moving more towards, they're not just like, how do I get 100 points? They're more about like, well, I want to do things. And so, yeah.
So considering all this, what is your favorite game series, and explain why?
It's funny. A few summers ago, I played through the Mass Effect series, like from start to finish.
Yes.
Yeah. People like don't really think highly of Mass Effect 3, but Mass Effect 3 I thought was a nice little closer, and the multiplayer just, it was like I can't think of a metaphor, but it was probably really one of the better multiplayers I've ever played in a game. I made a Shepard that was my Shepard, and I was involved.
Wait, quick question. What do you think about the patch that they did for the Mass Effect? I'm just curious.
Oh yeah,
Did you think it was basically, I don't know, a Band-Aid over a wound, or how did you describe it?
I thought that was just putting a Band-Aid over like a really, really huge wound. Sure, it's going to maybe fix some things, but it's not going to make things completely better.
And personally, on my standpoint, it's just like what the developers did for that game is just like, I'm glad that they did. They fixed all the problems, especially responding so quickly and with the time that they had. I think they did a decent job.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they give them a lot of junk for like that patch, but I think watching videos pre-patch and playing post-patch, I think it was fine. But I think it was a good metaphor you had with the Band-Aid over a giant cut, where at least they were trying. And with all the other things that they've had, like Leviathan and different things, I'm fine with it. I still think the first one is the best of the three.
With Halo 2 being relaunched in an HD version and Halo 5 coming around 2015 or so, what do you think Bungie or Microsoft need to do to really like make this game the game for shooter fans out there?
Well, I'm a hardcore fan of Bungie. They have their heads on just right. They although money is a big concern, they're more about the game and the experience, and I love that.
Is Bungie actually doing it? Because it
No.
was like 343 Industries that did the
Yeah.
last Halo. So,
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
whatever
not. I'm
company.
not sure who was
Microsoft.
actually.
yeah,
or either way.
Microsoft now owns it, and they're working on it completely. And playing through Halo 4, I wasn't super happy with it. It wasn't the Halo 1 through 3 or ODST or Reach that I really loved. Reach. But yeah, I think 4 and I think the new trilogy, they like the introducing the new aliens, and it's just kind of rough. And I don't know. I think Microsoft is more concerned like how do we keep this alive versus how do we keep engaging new and old audiences.
Is there anything to gain from relaunches other than increased graphics and other technical pieces, or do HD games offer some different kind of content? I mean, Nick's been playing like the Fable
Fable
HD.
Anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. I feel like with the relaunch, aside from like the idea of like, I think the whole purpose behind doing a relaunch is like, people loved Halo 2. People will die for Halo 2. And the fact that they're bringing it back, like I remember watching a Giant Bomb video. I don't know if you guys have heard of Giant Bomb. They're another video game journalism. They were there for the last few hours of Xbox Live for Halo 2. And so people loved Halo 2. So I think it's more appealing to the nostalgia, which I think is a weird market to appeal to. But
I think it's fine. I mean, even like they're doing Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2 for like the PS3, and even like they did some for Kingdom Hearts. So it's like I really want to play that game I used to play on the PS2, but it's like, oh, what? It's coming for the PS3? Yay!
yeah. Well, I mean, and like Kingdom Hearts is a funny story because like they lost all their assets for Kingdom Hearts 1, and they're like, well, we should probably just do it again and make it all HD. And so
Yeah.
Now, shooter games specifically thrive off of the multiplayer aspect of things. Is there actually a point to single-player campaigns? Because Titanfall, completely removing that aspect from it.
Yeah.
It's all multiplayer, all online, all the time.
well, I think it's a weird not taboo, but like I think it's a weird thing where a lot of people playing first-person shooters now are mostly or people who want the multiplayer. I've always been very story-driven, especially in things that I create. I want there to be an emotional story or there to be like a narrative that we're following, and so I think it's the appealing to my kind of audience where like there's an art to the game other than like, hey man, I blew up that giant thing with my buddies. It was awesome. Like that's cool, but I want my own personal connection to.
That's
the game.
probably how Dan would respond that way.
Probably.
Yeah, just like,
Our old roommate, Dan Kamisi, was very much the
multiplayer
player, and he would just... We would hear him yelling upstairs all the time.
Whether it's like GTA Online or, again, Call of Duty Black Ops, it's just like, oh, God, here
now,
he goes again.
When Microsoft was originally coming out with the Xbox One, they wanted to do an online requirement for everybody. And I'm just wondering, what does that do to gaming, and does it actually help or harm the gamers?
I think it really depends on the games, because like you can make a game that's always connected, and people will love it. Like I think like a consistent, like an Animal Crossing type game where you're always connected and everyone's living in the same town. That would be amazing. But I think there are some games that don't need it. Like a Call of Duty. Like you go in and you play a match, but when you're not playing, you don't need like everyone to be able to like still send you content. You'll come back on and it'll come on. So it doesn't hurt. But I think if it's done right, it doesn't hurt. But I think forcing it is what made a lot of people really unhappy, because you can't force someone to have online. You can't force someone to pay the additional however much per month. So, yeah. All
right. Could you tell us a little bit about what you're working on now in terms of gaming?
Yeah, so to take a step back from video gaming, but still kind of be involved in technology. For my senior project, I'm working on an app that combines the town of Ithaca, or turns the town of Ithaca into a series of games.
Really?
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, and
like,
so
examples.
So one of the games is that, how in the commons, I know the commons are being worked on right now, but the commons is what we're really focusing on. In the center of the commons, there's the trolley tracks. So one of the games was like it was trolley trapeze, and you have to walk along the entire path all the way, and the person who does it in the fastest amount of time wins. And so we're building an app that connects everyone, all of these games, so that you can go down with your friends and you can play or you can explore. And we give the people the option of playing or exploring, and exploring the places in Ithaca that aren't openly advertised. Like all of the gorges, like Second Dam and places like that. Obviously, giving them the warning that like don't swim, don't do things that you could get hurt by doing. So yeah, the idea was we Ithaca has given so much to us, so we really wanted to give back to them. So that's what I'm working on.
That's
right now.
good. I like that.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us here on the show,
Yeah, no
Cody.
problem.
It
Anytime.
was awesome having you on. Awesome having a game developer's perspective on things.
Yeah.
If you have any questions for Cody, give us a tweet at VIC Game Corner or at VIC Radio. We're going to take a quick break here, but we'll be back with our gamer, Dylan Bender, right after this. Stay tuned to VIC Radio's Game Corner.
The Game Corner.
To all your sins. Relax. I'd rather not piss this thing off. Demon. This one is machine and nerve. This one is but flesh and faith. And is the more deluded.
Halo series.
You are listening to the Game Corner here on VIC Radio. A little bit of that part from Halo 2 right there, where you encounter Gravemind.
Yes, the I don't know, head mind of the flood or something like that, where Master Chief falls in and meets up with the Arbiter, and they're like trapped or whatever stuff is that going on.
I don't know, but it's a piece that I will definitely need to play if I get the HD version of Halo 2.
Continue. I'm almost about to sneeze.
Oh, my apologies. We have our gamer on here today. It's Dylan Bender. How you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Just get up to the mic so that we can actually get your voice here. Anyway, we've got a couple of questions for you. What do you like about the Halo series?
Well, Halo was definitely one of my first games where I started playing with my friends back home, so that's really what got me into the Xbox and everything. Halo 1 was our first Halo. I played the campaign with my friend JJ. That was the first time we ever beat any campaign that was that long. So yeah, that was a pretty big deal. So I mean, Halo always gave me that aspect of like the way they took the whole space series, the whole like you're a super soldier, you gotta do this, this, and this. I feel like it really was just from every aspect. It was amazing. It blew our minds. We enjoyed it so much. We beat it like 4 times.
It's a space opera, if I could call it that.
Yeah.
A space opera?
An epic space opera. I mean, Lord of the Rings is kind of like a medieval opera in a way. I mean, even like Howard Shore inspired music from like Richard Wagner, and even the music is very operatic and just epic. Anyways, what do you think would be fixed about the Halo series?
Could you repeat that one more time?
Like, I don't know, there's like some of those weird little things that occur where we, I don't know.
Or you just got like a pet peeve about something in the Halo games. Is there anything that can be fixed about the Halo series?
Yeah, that crossed your mind?
As of recently, I gotta say with all the AI, with all like normal Marines, you usually get in the way a lot of the time. You're trying to shoot some guy and the guy just runs in front of you and gets killed, and it's kind of like, I just wasted an RPG on you for no reason. Thanks.
And there go your shields too.
Yeah,
Yep.
constantly. It's super annoying.
Gracious. So you played almost basically all the games, right?
Yeah.
Which one do you think is your favorite out of them?
See,
Tough
I know.
question,
Yeah, I'm
tough
gonna get a lot of
question.
hate for this, but I gotta say, definitely my favorite has to be Reach. When Bungie came out with Reach, it was definitely, I loved it. It was definitely the cherry on top of the cake. It was amazing.
Fine by me. I mean, like I played that game also, and I was like, I love this game so much. It's almost even better than the regular Halo series, because it's just basically you trying to like fight for humanity and just trying to save yourself from this horrific disaster.
I'm about to get a lot of flack. I never played that game.
He's only played the main ones.
Oh, that thing's just.
I don't know. The only game that I didn't really like, it was, I don't know, Halo Wars was sort of like an interesting, like, I don't know, kind of like...
An interesting concept?
It was an interesting concept. It wasn't really that good. ODST, I did not get into at all.
I was actually a really big fan of ODST.
I mean, it was a good game, but it's just like, it just didn't stick out for me for some reason. I don't know.
I mean, I know what you mean. I kind of like, the reason I liked it is as a cinematography major, I love like, the kind of second point of view where you're kind of like, you're not Master Chief, you're not really the main character, you're kind of these like secondary characters trying to...
You're actually mainly the rookie who's like, after all the events, he's like recollecting what's going on, what happens.
Yeah, what kind of happened to everyone, which I really enjoyed. I mean, that was definitely one of the things about Reach is maybe not a lot of people know this, but there's an Easter egg where as the Autumn is escaping Reach, pretty sure that's a ship name. If you go all the way to the right,
Pillar of Autumn, yeah.
Yeah, you can see Master Chief in his pod.
Yeah,
where he starts off in 1.
I was like watching.
I love the little things like
all
that.
the cutscenes, and it was like weird stuff where it didn't show Master Chief, but then it showed him, and then I don't know, there's weird things with cutscenes, to be honest. But yeah, it is good hint.
Now you're obviously a big part of the multiplayer also. You have to be if you're into the Halo games. What kind of weapons do you like to use? What kind of play style?
When I first started playing Halo 3 online with a bunch of my friends back home, I was awful with the BR. Couldn't kill anyone with it. It's pitiful. Then Reach came out. I got really good with the DMR, so DMR is definitely up there as one of my favorites. I love that kind of mid-range, pick people off from a distance, stay back. The SMG, still one of my favorites from all the games. It's amazing. No, I'd have to say about it. I usually stick to the basic ones.
I was always an alien person. I always loved taking the alien technology, Needler, or even like the Brood, like
sticky grenades.
The sticky grenades.
Sticky grenades are amazing.
The spike grenades. Oh,
and it's just the ultimate troll. It's like, oh, you killed me, but guess what? You just got grenaded in the face.
Oh, those sticky deaths. But what type of vehicle did you like to like?
Eric was talking to me about how he likes to use a Scorpion. Don't get into a Warthog with him. He's just god-awful driving at that.
Vehicle-wise, definitely the Ghost or the Mongoose. Mongoose is still, to this day, one of my favorite vehicles, just because you and a friend kind of get on, you kind of just drive around the back, kind of flank them a little bit. I always love that. I was never really a big tank person, just because I feel like you're so open. And in Halo, it's super easy to take out vehicles, jump on it, shove a grenade in there, get off, and they're dead. Which is always a giant pain. So I kind of like the Mongoose because you can kind of drive around and not get murdered.
I'm blanking what was the vehicle, but it was like the Brute motorcycle. Where that was? That was one. I
know what they're talking about. The big one wheel thing.
I'm blanking the name.
Oh man. This is gonna kill me for the rest of the day.
I don't know. Like one thing I enjoyed about like the Halo series, or particularly Reach and Halo 4, which I wish they would add more, was like space battles where you were able to like go into an airship or like able to fly a Pelican and be able to fight things off. I wish
you can fly Banshee,
but I don't know. But I would like more of like air combats, if that's what I'm saying, instead of like just having that one person in a Banshee. I want some like actual like dog fighting going on.
That would be an interesting game type to introduce.
So maybe that is something they should add in the next one. So
speaking of game types, what kind of game types do you really like?
In Halo, definitely favorite to this day is Infection, because I think Infection is the funniest thing ever. I will laugh with my friends for hours. But if we're usually just playing like competitively, definitely the Capture the Flag, Team Deathmatch, keep it simple. I'm always a big fan of those in Halo.
He's a big SWAT fan. He kicks so much butt.
I'll just walk around with a pistol. Won't even use the DMR.
If you ever play Reach, play SWAT on Reach. It's amazing. They have a pistol only one. It's hysterical.
Oh goodness! But of course, I'm so glad that they added Griff Ball in Halo 4, and I just rampaged so much in that. So what do you think that shooters or certain game titles are on the decline?
What kind of like genre? We were talking in the last segment about genres or game titles that are actually on the decline in popularity, that are kind of just dying out in the fan base. And a lot of people, it was basically an article from Game Informer saying this, there are what games are actually on the decline. A lot of people like to say shooters. A lot of people are getting sick of the shooters that are coming out. What games do you think are on the decline?
I mean, honestly, I definitely agree. I feel like FPS shooters are really on the decline just because there's so much, like in the Call of Duty series. I feel like after COD 4, Modern Warfare, it really started declining because it was kind of just the same thing over and over and over again. Just different maps, different guns. They kind of gave up on the story a little bit. I feel like if you play the campaign, it lacked. I didn't enjoy it. You kind of went up for multiplayer. That was it.
I think it kind of actually declined with Black Ops because it was interesting, like fighting in the Vietnam War, but then it was like, okay, now we're going into future warfare fighting. That's where it's like,
so I feel like the reason FPS are definitely on the decline is people want more from multiplayer. Like first-person shooting, killing your friends is fun, but it's fun for how long? Like people want more. So like games like Borderlands was definitely a big hit, just because it was a first-person shooter, but it wasn't you running around just in a time limit getting the most kills. Like there's a point, you got new guns, you did missions, that kind of stuff.
It was that RPG element.
Yeah, right? Like if you saw Bungie's making that new game Destiny, which has so much hype for it, just because it is a first-person shooter, but it's also so much more than just running around like the same couple of maps a bunch of times doing like domination or team deathmatch. Like there's a point to it, but it's also first-person shooter, which people love. Okay,
so going along on the same sort of strain here, what kind of games do you want to see more of from developers?
I definitely have to say a lot more campaign-dedicated games. So like games like Skyrim RPGs, that kind of stuff. If you ever played the Infamous series, I was a huge fan of it. It was so much fun to play. The storyline was good. It always kept you involved. There was so much they did with it that was really interesting. It was a new take on games, which I loved. So I feel like I really want more games where, like, if you put multiplayer in it, that's awesome. But I feel like companies really want to put it in too much. Like, they'll try to find a way where it kind of fits, and it's kind of like, oh, look, we put multiplayer in it, but even when they don't need it.
Yeah, like the Tomb Raider game.
Yeah, I was always a big fan of Dead Space, and I mean,
Far Cry 3.
Yeah, the second one had multiplayer, but I didn't get Dead Space to play multiplayer. I mean, it was fun for a little bit, but eventually it just died out.
Is there points to single-player campaigns like Halo, like
single player campaigns in games like Halo, like shooters?
Yeah, even with like Call of Duty, even.
I definitely would say yes and no. I feel like there's certain series that really thrive off the campaign and certain series that do not. So I feel like Call of Duty, I feel like if they took a campaign out, no one would miss it. No one would be like, oh, I really wish the new COD game had a campaign, because people rarely get Call of Duty and play the campaign. But games like Halo, which I was always a huge fan of, and I always play the campaign first, because Halo was this really interesting take on the whole like future and space and how we kind of moved out and then got pushed back by aliens who worked together to try to kill us, which is super interesting, and I love the take on it. But Call of Duty, it's kind of just, you relive the same thing in the campaign. It's always fight a bunch of people, move up a little bit, fight a bunch of people, move up. There's a helicopter, immediately gets destroyed, move up. So I feel
maybe
like
some little story here and there about like who you're trying to fight against and yada yada yada.
What about a game like Titanfall that's going to be coming out? Do you think that game should have a single player? Because they've already announced that it's not going to.
I mean, I have heard that it wasn't going to have a campaign, but I feel like seeing the gameplay, seeing what they're doing with it, I feel like it's definitely not going to hurt them that it doesn't have a campaign. I feel like they can do something really interesting with the campaign, but they definitely don't need it. Because the way they're doing it is really interesting just for like the new Xbox and how it's like everyone has a Titan, everyone has this giant robot that can follow them or they can fight in it. That they're not losing anything by not having a campaign. Do I think they can gain a little bit if it's a really well done campaign? Yes. Do I feel like it can hurt them if it's really bad? Also, yes.
So what other games are you looking forward to? As you said, there's Destiny that's coming out. Anything else?
I'm really, really excited for Destiny. Watch Dogs.
Yes. Oh, yes. For us Chicagoans, we are really excited.
Watch Dogs looks amazing.
We were disappointed when it was like delayed back in November. We were like, we want to play it for Thanksgiving break. It was like, nope, you got to wait a bunch more months.
I mean, if I've learned anything, when I remember waiting patiently in 8th grade for Kingdom Hearts 2 to come out after they pushed it back 4 times, and I'm glad they did. I love that game so much. So I feel like if a game is pushed back, I say take all the time in the world. If you're going to make it better, make it better.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
But,
all right.
Of course, the question is, will it actually be good when it does come out? Because there are games where they do push back, but they just fail.
So, Dylan, do you have a gamer tag? And if so, are you willing to share?
For Xbox 360, I don't have the Xbox One, I'm sorry. It's Sketch, SK3TCH space X. PS4, it's Demono Corvo. DEMONECORVO. That's also my same username for League of Legends on the computer, if anyone plays that. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Dylan. Thanks for coming on the show. It was awesome having you here.
Thank you for having me.
All right. You are listening to The Game Corner here on VIC Radio. We'll be right back right after this.
The Game Corner.
We're not leaving them here. Yeah, you're not. Oh, crazy fool. Why do you always jump? One of these days, you're gonna land on something as stubborn as you are. And I don't do bits and pieces. Where is she, Chief? Where's Cortana?
Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it.
She stayed behind.
Halo series. So, we were talking with gamer Dylan Bender in that last segment, and before that we were talking to Cody Garrett, who is a game developer and also a gamer here at Ithaca College. And it was an interesting experience to say the least. But, you know, it just got us building up to what we ultimately wanted to talk about at the end of the show, which is the role of single player in first-person shooter games. And this is a big issue, especially coming out now with Titanfall, how they've announced that they're not going to have a single player, and I'm actually outraged about that. I feel like a game like Titanfall and first-person shooter games should have some sort of single-player campaign.
I mean, now that I think about it, like, obviously the big thing is that you're in a giant robot and you get to fight along, but at the same time, it almost just seems like that. It could be like Pacific Rim, where you're just basically getting what you want and you don't really need a story. You just want to be in the action. It would have been difficult if they would have tried to make a single player where your character either fights in the robot and then sometimes has to do like some ground missions or something like that. It's just, it kind of, now that I think of it, it seems a little bit disjunctive.
I don't think it actually is all that disjunctive. I mean, it would be something similar to along the lines of like Gundam or any of those sort of anime shows where you have the gigantic mechs, as well as if you had a single-player campaign, you get to explain all the different things about these Titans and about the war that's going on and everything like that.
I'm sure they'll probably explain it in the multiplayer. I mean, even like Final Fantasy like online try to like explain what's going on in the universe and allowed your character to do whatever. So
I don't like that, though. I don't like having things explained while I'm trying to blow people up. I want to be able to see a cutscene and have the story explained to me. Oh, so this is what's going on. Similar to the way that it happened in Halo, is that you're going along, and all of a sudden you run into a cutscene and the story moves along. It's something that I think is just necessary for one of these types of games.
I don't know what to say exactly, because we still don't know what yet, if like whether your character is able to run around this entire world or if it's just going to be like focus on like, you know, team deathmatch or something like that. I don't know what exactly is entailed for Titanfall. It's not a game that I've been researching myself.
Well, another game or another part of the single-player aspect that it allows you to do is that it really allows you to connect to a character. In the Halo series, we have been able to connect to Master Chief. We've been able to connect to Sergeant Johnson. We've been able to connect to Cortana, Miranda, all these other characters that are thrown in there, and we develop that emotional response. Now, had they done the same thing, it looks similar in gameplay to a game like Mass Effect. And had we had absolutely no idea about the story in Mass Effect, that entire multiplayer would have failed.
Mm-hmm.
So it just sends shivers down my spine the wrong way when they say, oh, we're not even going to include a single player and explain any of the crap that's going on in this game.
Again, as I've said before, I don't know about much of the game. Probably the developers will find a way to explain everything. Like maybe your first mission in the multiplayer will be basically, you know, your training day. Like, you know, learn the basics of how to do what and what's this and what's going on. That's what I know, especially with a lot of these like online multiplayer games.
But wouldn't that just as easily be able to be incorporated into a single player campaign where the character is able, or the player is actually able to learn on their own rather than having to learn alongside like 5 other people?
Not sure exactly. Not sure.
You're not sure about any of this. Well, then tell me this. What was the role of the single player campaign in Halo?
Again, as I said, basically it was just going on an adventure, actually exploring the space around, like visiting to like these other planets, fighting in space and fighting again for humanity itself. And again, that's just why I remember connecting with the story about, you know, what's going on with Master Chief and all that. As I said, I don't know much about Titanfall, and
well, this isn't even just about Titanfall. This is now about first-person shooters in general. Like, what would we have? Dylan thinks that we would have essentially lost something from not having. We wouldn't have lost something from not having the story in Call of Duty games.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? He may be right. But there was something about being able to be Viktor Reznov in whatever Call of Duty that was that made the game that much better because you could play through his story.
I mean, that was only like that one segment in Call of Duty Black Ops. But again, maybe I'm not sure. Yeah, it would be an interesting sort of lore to like learn about how Titanfall, the universe, is set up and all that. But again, as I see, Titanfall is just mainly there to, you know, be in a giant robots, just like as I said, with like, you know, as you said, like Gundam or Gundam.
We actually, I've just pulled Stephen Brasley, who's with News Saturday. He's prepping in here, and I just want to get his opinion on this. Stephen, what is the role of single-player campaigns in first-person shooters?
Oh, it's easily to be immersed in the story. That's the first and foremost thing. You're focusing on what's surrounding the character and your character's reactions to what's happening around him.
Exactly, and to games like Titanfall that aren't going to have this aspect in there, and they've got so much lore that they could have shown. Are we exactly losing something from not being able to have that?
Well,
not necessarily, I would say, because I would point to one multiplayer game that is actually very, very much full of lore, and that's Team Fortress 2. Every character in that game has a backstory. Every character in that game has a very key role in this massive universe Valve created over what was originally just a simple concept of 9 characters beating the hell out of each other.
But how did you learn about like each one of those characters? Is it from the game multiplayer that you get?
Partly from the game through some hidden visuals, and also they do have a lot of backstory that was established through comics and video content. But it's a very immersive world that they created that exists not just in the game but outside the game.
But look at that. You had to say that the content was hidden within the actual gameplay. That I don't want from a first-person shooter game. If I have to go around within the map risking myself, first off, to my kill-death ratio, and then I go up and I find out, oh, so this is what this is about. That I don't want to have to do that.
My first approach, as I said, I think a majority of players just want to like be in these, mech suits and just fight off. Sure, it'd be nice to learn how it all started and what exactly your character is going to be doing, but I think that's not really the sole purpose. Again, as with what we've seen with a lot of first-person shooters, a lot of them, especially with Call of Duty, is just focused on just multiplayer and just playing the game instead of just having to worry about. I think it's more of a game to just escape and just waste time, not even worrying about a story, but just doing whatever.
I feel like that they're losing a huge part of the fan base of gamers, though.
No doubt.
When you do that, you eliminate any gamers who are actually interested in stories, like myself, from actually buying your game. And for a small developer, that can be deadly because you're losing a whole bunch of money, and that's not something that you really want from just being in the gaming arena.
But again, they still have that one crowd that is like really wanting to just be in a mech suit and just fight there. Like, I do understand that part where they will lose people who are, big into storytelling like Cody is. But again, there are people like Dan, our roommate, who probably just wants to be in the suit and just kick some ass, to be honest. And though there is a giant majority of those people that just there's a lot of people that just don't consider about story and just want to play the game. They can say like Call of Duty has a good story, even though to us, we consider these other games like Walking Dead and Mass Effect to be better storytelling games. But again, they just want to chill. They just want to, kill some people, whatever. That's just gaming.
My other concern with not putting a first-person campaign...
Do you think there's a story behind Pong? No. People are just wanting to play Pong.
That's a completely different style game. That's like an arcade game.
Did anyone care about asteroids? No, they just wanted to survive
We're talking about
asteroids.
First-person shooter game. First off, that's 8-bit. You can't even get much story from that.
Do you really know about the guy who, I don't know, what's that, like that runner guy or like that jumping off ponds and swinging off ropes? You don't really know much about any of these like sort of games. And do we care? No, we just play them.
You just made me lose my train of thought here.
Good.
And
I'm glad.
And you know what? I think the concern that I was going to have, man, I just completely lost it.
I don't know, but I kind of agree with Cody.
Hang on. Now I've got it. Is that you've got a limited gameplay or like replayability with games like this that do not have a form of first-person campaign. I mean, let's look at Shadowrun. What was there to do after you've played Shadowrun for like maybe an hour or two? What was there else to do? Oh, you enter another freaking game and you just kill a bunch of people.
Well, as I said, I don't know what Titanfall's doing, whether they're doing the team deathmatch or like maybe having this open world, but I think it'll just be, if it's going to be that open world, we'll probably get explanations like we will for Elder Scrolls Online or even for Destiny, which again, Destiny is a multiplayer game, no single player campaign at all, and yet people are still hyped for that. So even if Destiny even had a campaign, no one's going for the campaign because they already know that it's going to be focused on the multiplayer. And people will probably have those like weird side missions to do or like weird things to grab here and there. Or I don't know what Titanfall has.
I want a campaign though. That's the thing. That's the thing that draws you in and gets you actually emotionally attached to a game is the campaign.
And the campaign can be on the online just like anything. Like even with RuneScape, you got these weird missions that you go about and you develop your character. I don't know about Titanfall. It may be just like that team deathmatchers. As I'm saying, I'm not sure. I can't really make a claim, but that's what I'm expecting.
But even games like that, I can sit there and I'll play it for like an hour, 2 hours, and they'll be like, okay, this is boring. What else is there to do? I mean, what else is there honestly to do in a game that has absolutely no campaign, no story whatsoever? Anyway, we are starting to run out of time here on the Game Corner, but we have a few thank yous to give out. First off, to our guests that we've had today. We've had Cody Garrett, as well as we've had Dylan Bender.
And also a small cameo from Stephen Brassley.
And Stephen Brassley. Very, very, very huge thank you for letting me pull you just on the spot over towards the chair. I want to thank Jeremy Gosick, our station manager, of course our talent coordinators, Dave Sperling and Pat Hayes, and of course anybody else out there that I've
Chris Wheatley.
Chris Wheatley, of course, manager of television and radio operations here at Ithaca College. And you know what? I'm going to put out one more final call out there. Who do you think is right in this? Does Eric have the main point, or do I? Tweet at VIC Game Corner or at VIC Radio. This has been the Game Corner here on VIC Radio. News Saturday is up next.